Hello, my name is AIMI binti Muhammad Yusri. Today we are going to talk about our reading circle. For your information, there are 8 roles that we need to be assigned with: a discussion director, vocabulary enricher, summarizer, illustrator, graphic presenter, quotation finder, cohesive promoter, and paragraph picker. As for me, my role is the discussion director and quotation finder. First, we have been discussing about an article entitled "The Effect of COVID-19 on Early Childhood Education and Care." As a director, I have assigned with each member with each role that they are confident with. They all have been showing a participation and determination with their mind and soul.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is AISYAH Amani binti Ma'arifin and my role is vocabulary enricher, or known as word wizard. So my job is I need to be on the lookout for few words that has a special meaning. So after I browse through the articles, I jot down some of the special words that most of us never heard before, because most of them have special meanings, and so today I'm going to share it with you guys. Okay, so the first vocab that I'm going to share with you guys today is turmoil. So what is turmoil? So I look up at Cambridge Dictionary, which you can Google it, and it states that the meaning of turmoil is a state of great disturbance, confusion, or uncertainty. We can use these words when we want to express a state where it's in chaos, confusions, or even troubles. And there's also many synonyms that's related to turmoil. So the examples of words or sentence. So the example of sentence I obtained from these articles that use turmoil is: educational programs were in turmoil due to the COVID-19 pandemics. So I hope you guys can understand. Okay, so let's move to the next vocab, which is unprecedented. So this word means never done or known before. So we can use this vocab, unprecedented, when we want to talk about something that is unusual, abnormal, or uncommon. When we want to talk about pandemic COVID-19, like we never heard before of this virus, but suddenly it happens on 2020, and we can call it as unusual event, unusual virus that we never heard before or known before. And the example that I found from the article is global health pandemics have caused unprecedented disruption to all spheres of human life and to education worldwide. Okay, so there is another vocab, which is avert and uptick. Avert means to prevent something bad from happening, and uptick means an increase in the number or amount in something. So you can use these vocabs side by side, put the verb in front and uptick, so it will be avert and uptick. So how to use these both vocabs? So I found the examples of sentence, which is, it states that: did the staff quarantine quickly enough to avert an uptick on cases in the community? We're talking about the increases of amount of people infected with COVID-19. So we need to avert the uptick on cases in the community. Next, let's take a look at these vocabs, which is inevitables and cease. So what is inevitable? So inevitables means certain to happen and unable to be avoided and prevented. So we were talking about bad luck or something that is destiny for you to come across. So it is unavoidable, you cannot avoid it, right? So the next is, what is cease? So cease means to stop something. When you want to stop something, you can use to ease the prevention, or to ease or to prevent. It's have the same meanings. Okay, so this is the last vocab that I can share with you guys, which is succumb. So what succumbs means? It means to die or suffer badly from an illness. So there's another way that you can say aside than using succumb, which is you can say develops, suffer from, or contract. So for further understanding, I show it's how it's used in a sentence, which is the examples that I provided to you guys. Is it inevitable that your son will succumb to the virus? They are asking, is it unavoidable for your son to came contract with the virus or suffer from the virus or also die from the virus? Nice to meet you guys. My name is AISYAH Amani and my next role is illustrator. So what's illustrator need to do? My job is I need to produce an illustrations or image or sketch so that I can share it with you guys so that you guys can understand what our articles are talking about. As you guys can see, there's a picture above of my videos, right? So I sketch it by myself after I browse through our articles. I understand the context of the articles and I illustrate it in forms of picture. So what can I share from this picture to you guys is it consists of a wonderful family, a happy family that consists of father, mother, and their son. So as you guys can see, they are wearing masks because it's during the pandemics of COVID-19. So the context is, what if the parents came contract with the pandemics? What are their sons gonna do? And we know that we are talking about the ECE, early childhood programs, and if their parents are sick and are fatigued and are in a bad conditions, how can they guide and help their children, which is at the age of 4 to 6, to conduct an online learning? So it's very hard for our parents, for these child parents, to balancing between responsibilities as a parents and also to be a guider to their son. Alright, let's take a look at this second picture together. It shows that a son and his father are using computer together to conduct an online learning. So we are talking from the aspect of early childhood programs, right? It consists of children at the age of 4 to 6. So if you think logically, how could children at this age want to conduct an online learning by themselves, right? So that means they need guidance and aids from their parents on how to use Google's Meet, on how to use WhatsApp. So of course their parents need to be by their side during the online learning process, so that their parents can help them and telling them how to use some of the digital hardware. Okay, so we have reached our final sketch for our articles. So this sketch means a lot if you guys look at it closely. It tells a boy that need to self-isolations during the pandemic COVID-19. So we know that kids do enjoy playing with friends, right? At the evenings, as we can see from our surroundings, that kids likes to play with their friends, right? Even at the kindergartens or playgrounds or anywhere. So if we're talking from the context during the pandemics, the kids may suffer from anxiety or any disorder because they don't socialize enough with their friends. And it's important for children development to play with their friends, to socialize themselves, to practice how to speak with people. So we're talking about the disadvantage during the pandemic is that children are not exposed to the outer life. So how can they want to building their character and the development in this kind of states?
Hello, I'm ALEYA, your graphic presenter. Let's recall this article. Now, look at yellow bars. It only shows us 50 states of United States. in order for school closure through the month, compared to the orange bars, which is UNESCO. The result more detailed that estimate reached 1.2 billion school children had their education put on hold due to the COVID-related school closure. We move to the next graphic. Let's refer to the pink one. It tells us in early 2020, a search using COVID-19 plus early childhood education yielded very little, but in early 2021, by mid-February, nearly 20,000 hits were produced by this search terms on Google Scholar, which the purple one. Last but not least, a study conducted in Italy found that mother with children in the 0 to 5 age found it difficult to balance the demand of home and school. This study concluded that parents will face difficulty balance their responsibility and fulfill their family need. Last but not least, a study conducted in Italy found that mother with children in the 0 to 5 age found it difficult to balance the demand of home and school. This study concluded that parents will face difficulty balance their responsibility and fulfill their family need.
Next, my role is a quotation finder. My job is to find quotes in this article and share with you guys. Let's go. Now take a look at the first quotes. The meaning of these quotes are the students are really exhausted with the online learning because as they want to go back as usual to face-to-face learning at school. Face-to-face at school is more effective because they get to ask a question they don't understand directly to their teachers. Now, take a look at the second quote. What we can learn about this quote is that responsibilities of parents are not only to monitor and provide education to their children, but they also need to work. Some family have to work during the day and some family have to work late into the night. Due to this, they don't have time to encourage their children, especially those aged 4 to 6 years old, to engage in online learning and need help from adults because children aged 4 to 6 years old are less skilled in using digital tools. Now, let's move to the next quotation. This is because not all families can afford the cost of buying digital tools for their children such as a laptop, tablets, and mobile phones. For families who are in the middle of the city, the cost of placement is higher compared to the families who live in the rural areas. But in the terms of internet access, it's easier to access the internet in the middle of the city compared to families in rural areas who find it difficult to access online learning session. And finally, the last quotation is, preschool and children in early primary grades are most vulnerable as they often do not respond to online learning and are at a critical time of social, cognitive, and intellectual development. This is because students, especially children, are less suitable to follow online learning because they still need support from their parents.
My name is Nur Amani Shamimi binti Badrisham and my role is cohesion promoter. This means I will highlight about 4 cohesive devices that I found in this article. I will share and explain on how these cohesive devices work in sentences. First of all, let us take a look at the first point. However. However is used to introduce a sentence that contradicts or contrasts with the previous sentence. This will alert the reader that a shift is forthcoming. Always put a comma after the however and follow it with a complete sentence. For example, please take a look at the sentence that I found. Institutions with better infrastructures for online learning had an obvious advantage, as did the tech-savvy faculty members who navigated the transition more easily. However, neither covering content nor evaluating written work was the hardest part. Next, let's check out the second cohesive device. It is secondly. Secondly, can be used to introduce argument points or arguments in a logical order. They are usually used at the beginning of a sentence or paragraph. For better understanding, you can see the example of the sentence. Secondly, the nature of the storm itself is quite different, depending upon the family's circumstances. Thirdly, it is as a result. As a result can be used to introduce a result or consequence that follows from a cause or reason that you have mentioned. They are usually used at the beginning of a sentence or paragraph. Please refer to the slide for an example. As a result, the mother lost her job as a waitress and the father's work as a cook was limited to weekends only. Last but not least, it is although. Although is used to introduce clause which contains a statement which makes the main clause of the sentence seem surprising or unexpected. Let's examine this example together. Although their children needed supervision to complete school assignments, the parents had to work to meet the family's most basic needs. Let's move to the next rule. Now I am a paragraph picker. My job is to choose the paragraph or lines from the text to discuss with my group. My purpose is to spotlight something interesting, powerful, descriptive, significant, controversial, puzzling, or important from the text. First of all, preparation for this article required searching the COVID-19 literature more extensively to include quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method research, policy documents from respected global and national organizations, literature reviews conducted by professionals representing diverse fields, and resources prepared by prominent professional associations. I choose this line as a descriptive because it tells the details of COVID-19 research. Moreover, education plays a particularly significant role in children and adolescents' health and well-being and has a lasting impact on their lives as adults. I choose this line as an important line because everyone needs to develop new skills to build independence, confidence, and self-esteem. So, education plays a big role in human lives. Furthermore, this family situation highlights two key concepts from positive psychology that are foundational to this discussion of the short and long-term effects of a world health pandemic. There are quality of life and wellness. I found this line interesting because we can learn the consequences that can happen during COVID-19. Last but not least, internationally, mental health problems accounts for about one-third of the world's disability among adults, and these issues escalate during deadly disease outbreaks. These lines are controversial because people nowadays always make decisions without thinking carefully. At the end, it only impacts them.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is ALEYA Natasha and my role is a summarizer. So, my job is to prepare a brief and concise summary of this article. From the abstract paragraph, what can I summarize is the implication of COVID-19 pandemic for education. This article telling about the effect of COVID-19 on early childhood education. Firstly, about the implication, I found that 50 states of United States ordered for school closure. This led to education programs and early childhood education to be in turmoil. This caused parents need to homeschool their parents by themselves. Next point is threat to quality of life and human wellness. What I can identify from this paragraph is parents are tested positive of COVID-19 may have the possibility to affect their children's health. So, in these circumstances, how can parents do homeschooling when they are not in the good condition to do so? Now, the focus of the pressure on families and intensification of inequalities is talk about parent work at certain restaurant may involve the financial problem due to pandemic. This means the parent may lose their job if the restaurant are not allowed to be open and discontinued. So if this happen, can you imagine what will happen Mana weh? So, if this happen, can you imagine what will happen to the homeschooling of their children in this family? Yeah. So, if this happen, can you imagine what will happen to the homeschooling of these children in this family? Their parent can balancing the responsibility, motivating their children, and accessing online material due to financial problems. Plus, family members often have little or no training in supporting young children learning and few resources. On the other hand, the consequence from the closure of educational programs cause some students who are living in extreme adversity to lose their safe haven, such as helpful meals, social service, and educational intervention. Furthermore, early childhood is a critical period for learning how to deal with powerful emotion and to build skills that support positive interaction with others. Lastly, based on modification to teaching and reliance on technology, we can learn that online learning are usually rely on internet and digital device. But the problem is how the children do the homeschooling if not all of them have reliable internet and hardware. In addition, they also face further challenges such as poor internet access, home environment unconducive to, and student difficulty with self-discipline. So, the parent will be burdened and the children learning process will be distracted.
Before we end our discussion today, I'm going to ask some questions to my group mate about this article. The first question would be, how many schools had their education put on hold during the COVID-19?
Thank you, AIMI, for the question. So what can I say is, according to UNESCO, on 2020, they estimates that 1.2 billion school children had their education put on hold due to COVID-19 related school closure. And between late March to April of 2020, more than 90% of the total enrolled learner worldwide experienced nationwide school closure and were confined at home.
Okay, the second question would be, what are the factors that have reduced opportunities to learn for students?
Okay, thank you, AIMI, for the second question. So what can I say is, unprecedented long-term closure of school and suspension on face-to-face teachings during the COVID-19 crisis surely has reduced opportunities to learn for students, particularly those of young children. In terms of social-emotional development, most children have lost the equivalent of a year or more of interaction with peers in a group settings.
For question number 3, why are children are not suited for online approach?
Yes, AIMI. They're not suited for online approach because young child particularly need to be actively involved, and the fact that many of them are not yet reading, writing, or adept at computer keyboard make them the least well suited for online approach.
And lastly, the question would be, why responsibility for advancing the learning at young children is not for amateur?
Thank you, AIMI, for the question. Responsibility for advancing the learning of young children is not for amateurs. It requires professional knowledge, skill, and patience. That's all from me.